All right, everyone. Everything belated today by several hours. Also, I think I twisted my ankle at some point recently because my right one, really hurts. So keep that in mind. If I wince in pain or, the cat's trying to show you its ass again. We got to talk about the legacy media and how funny it is to me, actually. The Tarareade allegations, I mean, the basis for them isn't funny, of course. But the way in which people are reacting to, the corporate media's non-coverage, we can't really call it real coverage because they usually don't talk about it, of this particular allegation against Biden, the amount of attrition that they're taking is, I think, overall a good thing. Not that I'm rooting for, Biden to sexually assault anyone else like he apparently has in the past, allegedly. But it's definitely helpful in exposing some of the shit from the legacy media. You see, CNN, MSNBC, all these different groups, they don't talk about it at all. Fox talks about it sporadically, but they only do that to keep up appearances. Like, they're the legacy media too. It was funny because Fox cut ties with Diamond and Silk recently, and I'm thinking to myself, all the left-wing headlines cheering this on. It would be funnier if they said that multi-billionaire backed network, multinational corporation decides to cut ties with two black females. I thought that would be a more fitting headline, but it's one that you're not going to see from them while they're gloating. You're not going to see that from Jared Holt, in other words. But the Tara Reade allegations against Biden, they keep getting worse, and the legacy media keeps getting more silent. It's like there's an inverse correlation. At first, they were willing, when it was just her saying this, they were willing to talk about it. You may have noticed this, like many weeks ago. They would cover it. They would just dismiss it. Now that they can't really dismiss it because you get other people corroborating things, you've got the missing Larry King episode, on Google Play, no longer found. Now that there's a little more evidence, a little bit more there to actually go on, they don't want to talk about the story. And people are starting to notice, and I'm seeing it most. I'm not seeing this most from the MAGA hat wearers. I'm not seeing this most from the Trump fans. I'm seeing it most from the Bernie bros. I'm seeing all of the different, if you use Twitter, Bernie had a huge presence on Twitter. It's a pretty good barometer of sort of the far left. Twitter or Tumblr, but Tumblr is it's tumbleweeds at this point because it doesn't have porn on it anymore, so nobody uses it. Maybe Reddit, but, Reddit's unnavigably confusing for no reason other than, because they want to have a rating system there. They want to be less simplistic than 4chan for, people who are a little bit out there. Anyway, if you look at the reactions to the Biden allegations, most of it's coming from the Bernie bros. It's like all of these little local offices, like I think it was the Ohio Bernie people, their official page on Twitter, and they're like, well, here's our statement on, Biden winning the Ohio primary because it basically wasn't held and it's all mail-in. And it was funny because they're like, well, #MeToo, we choose to believe women, we got these serious allegations, and we strongly and vehemently protest this move by the Democratic Party to essentially suspend democracy. Now, I don't necessarily believe in that completely, but it is a little bit odd. You'd think that people could, still have their vote. I understand that the DNC has already told these states back, I think around the time of the Nevada primary, actually. It was very early on in the race. Anyone that moves their primaries forward, whether it's due to coronavirus or not, is at risk for not having, the normal delegate process. That's understandable. But the biggest reaction to Biden's #MeToo problem is from the Bernie bros. It's from a bunch of leftists who I think the phenomenon that we're seeing is that a bunch of younger, further left voters who aren't really part of the Dem core, they're on the fringe of it, they want to say told you so to the Democratic Party. And I don't think, by the way, when they say, well, Biden is ahead in matchup polls in all the battleground states, ergo Hillary Clinton, I think that this has happened before. I think that the gap is definitely closing, and the thing is, when things like this happen, when your candidate has a legitimately egregious allegation against them, in which the corporate media run by the billionaires that run it are not willing to even talk about it, when it's basically people like me with a goddamn webcam who are the only ones talking about it, it begins to be, something's rotten in Denmark. It smells fishy to people. And I think even the soccer mom Americans at some point are going to wake up to the realization that Biden is several things. Number one, he's not really qualified because he's demented. Number two, he has a very, very long track record of being perverted. Now, the New York Times, trying to defend him, insinuated his guilt at least insofar as he kissed and touched people in ways they felt inappropriate and made them feel uncomfortable. That alone is a hashtag Me Too sort of thing. I realize that's the first circle of hell. I talked about that years ago. A couple of years ago, I talked about how there were essentially several circles of hell, like Dante's Inferno style, for the hashtag #MeToo. The first level is you made people feel uncomfortable. You touched them in a way that they felt was inappropriate or something after the fact or something. It's survivable politically. It's inconvenient, but it's survivable. Second level is they would claim maybe sexual assault. The third is rape, and the fourth is anything involving kids, animals, something along killing somebody along those lines. Now, Weinstein in the fourth circle, very, very unfortunate for him. He pretends to be sick, by the way. He pretends to be as demented and decrepit as Biden really is. It's very interesting. With regards to these allegations, though, the main problem is that the legacy media trying to defend Biden at this point only can shut up. They can't defend him verbally. They can't come out. How do you expect them to come out and explain to tens of millions of Bernie fans, by the way, hashtag #MeToo, believe all women, but not this one, because it's politically inconvenient for us at the time, because he's running a campaign against Trump. And then I see all the whataboutism. I see some of Biden's core fans who apparently there are a few. They do exist. It's like finding out that unicorns are real or something. They come out and they say, well, Donald Trump has more allegations against him, and he flew on Epstein's plane, not to Lolita Island, but just, because he needed to get back to Manhattan quickly. Biden, who actually, I believe, was a passenger there, along with Bill Clinton, it's whataboutism. Essentially what happens, Biden done goofed. Biden is allegedly a pervert. But Trump is allegedly more of a pervert, supposedly, and I don't think that that's even necessarily the case, and he's getting crucified. He's getting crucified by everyone outside of the political mainstream, but the thing is, the internet has made the political mainstream bigger. The political non-mainstream. The political non-mainstream that is crucifying Biden has expanded over the last couple of generations. In the wake of the advent of the internet, what falls outside of the official status quo sort of party line accepted lamestream thing has gotten larger. It used to be, back in the 90s when we thought about someone who was outside of the mainstream, we thought of someone, they're in Nevada or New Mexico or something on a bluff overlooking some small nondescript town. They literally wear a tinfoil hat and they operate a ham radio. And they have an entire bookshelf full of conspiracy theory stuff and UFOs and cult manuscripts, and that was what it meant to be outside of the mainstream. Today, many millions of people fall into that category simply because they don't gobble up the stupid swill of the DNC or the RNC. They don't fall broadly under the umbrella of generally moderate, so-called, or what can you say, center-left Dem or center-right moderate Republican. They fall somewhere outside of that. They're third-partyists, they're apolitical, whatever. In the political sense, they're outside of the lame establishment. The lamestream, as Trump is now calling it. I half expect him to use the term legacy media, and I think it would benefit him if he did. Always invent new things, even if it was invented before, of course. Thomas Edison knew this well. He did very well for himself. The allegations against Joe Biden, though, the biggest part of it isn't even the allegations themselves. It's the revelation that the corporate media really is that dishonest. And this is something Trump has used as an attack line for years now, and people are beginning to accept the explanation based on their non-coverage of the Tarareade allegations. Because they're saying the Democrats were all on board with hashtag #MeToo for several years. And they said, we must believe anyone that comes forward, any allegation that's made, absolutely. Of necessity, we must believe it by default. You are guilty until proven innocent. Now, after several years of training people to believe that, they all of a sudden have to do a 180, and they have to explain to people why that's not the case. Easier said than done. That's about all. Peace out.